Have you ever been devastated by the face that you see when you look in the mirror? I call that mirror shock. This is Kristen Van Tilburg, and most of the women that I work with have known these mirror shock moments when that face in the mirror just doesn't match who you know yourself to be. The worst experience of mirror shock I ever had occurred the day after my mother died. The woman that I saw in the mirror must have aged 10 years overnight. Her eyes were dull and puffy. Her skin was gray and sallow. Her mouth was drooping. She looked devastated, and she was. And this is an experience that we all know, but we don't realize how much the circumstances of our lives are written on the lines of our face. We have this story about aging, that we age because of the trips that we've made around the sun. But this is really the least of it. There's no denying that trips around the sun have an impact on our biology. But what has a much greater impact is the circumstances of our lives and how we successfully or unsuccessfully deal with them. So these moments of mirror shock, while they have a correlation to the number of trips that you've made around the sun, that isn't the whole story. And it's so important to understand the whole story so that you can make good choices about how you want to operate your biology instead of letting the aging default, which is the whole model of trips around the sun and you're getting older and here's what happens at this stage of life and here's what happens at this stage of life. That whole story is going to run your biology unless you consciously intervene. So the day after my mom died, my body was showing me the impact of grief and shock. Even though my mother had been in a 5-day hospice situation where we knew that her death was imminent, the phone call that I received at 5 in the morning, you need to come, her breathing has changed. And then at 5:30, before I could even get out the door, I'm sorry, she's gone. And I don't even think I looked in the mirror that day, but the next day when I was putting on my makeup to go do all the doing things that had to be done to take care of her situation, I looked at that face in the mirror and I thought, wow, look at what's happened. And that's when I knew that as much as the trips around the sun have an impact, that one day can make the difference. That it can make a difference that will show on your face. I have some notes here because I want to make sure I tell you all the pieces of this puzzle that are so important. That day that I saw my face, I didn't know what was happening biologically. I really had never given it any thought, to be honest with you. And because of that, the shock that I was in led me to ask a different question. Does it really have to be this way? About my mom, about what happened to her. She fell on a Sunday. She was in relatively good health. She was 103 years old, so she was frail. She wasn't operating at her peak anymore, but there was no major failure in her biology that would have predicted that 5 days later she would be dead. But on Sunday morning at 2 a.m., she fell and broke her hip. And 5 days later, just a few short hours and exactly 5 days later, she was gone. And I thought to myself, does it really have to be that way? And I began to do research about how aging. I just was researching the whole topic of aging and what was the cutting edge research showing. And I found this story that just completely blew me away. That's right here in front of our eyes, and yet I don't know of anyone talking about it. This, the first thing I found was a study by a Harvard researcher named Ellen Langer, Dr. Ellen Langer. And in 1970, she did a study that's written about in a book called Counterclockwise. And she told about how they created an apartment in a monastery that that took anybody who visited it back to the 1950s. It was populated with 1950s furniture and magazines, and if you turned on the black and white TV, there was 1950s news on the news channel and 1950s sitcoms and Ed Sullivan and all that was on TV in the 50s was there, and they put these 80-year-old men into this time capsule type of apartment for 7 days. And before they went in, they measured their biological markers, and when they came out, they measured their biological markers. The day they went in, they took a picture of their face. The day they came out, they took a picture of their face. And independent researchers looked at these before and after studies, biologically, physically. And these independent observers that didn't know anything about what was going on could readily observe that not only had their biological markers improved, blood results, vision tests, breath tests, heart coherence tests, not only had there been big changes in those biological areas, but the face that emerged from that time capsule looked younger than the face that went in, even though it was 7 days older. She wrote a whole study about this. And ever since then, there's been research coming in from different parts of the research community about how our awareness, our consciousness, our mindset, our beliefs about our bodies, about the trips around the sun, about our emotions, how all of that impinges on what we instruct, consciously or unconsciously, our biology to do. And so that's why I'm on this mission now to share this information, because if you do not intervene, the aging default, the trip around the sun messages are going to dominate and age you faster than time itself. But if you learn the youthing secrets that are involved in communicating to your biology to activate the hormones and the chemicals and the mechanical connections and the physiological nervous system processes that keep your body young and vital and healthy and radically alive, you can make a huge change in the face that you see in the mirror over time. So, on the other side of the coin, a happier story about my life occurred the day that my daughter was born. My daughter was born at home in 1984, and I had two midwives and some friends that helped me go through this birthing process in a home environment. At the time, it was kind of a radical thing to do. There was a lot of common agreement that the only safe place to have a baby was in a hospital. But I have never been comfortable in hospitals. I mean, they're for sick people, right? And the idea of taking myself, who was healthy, and my baby that was presumably healthy, and giving birth to her in an environment that's full of germs and sick people. I mean, not to criticize hospitals. I know they do absolutely their very best, but I just wanted something else for my baby, and so she was born at home. And from the time that the midwife said, checked me and said, "You're in active labor," till the moment that she was born, was 12 hours and 37 minutes. And I'm here to tell you it was a very stressful, very challenging 12 hours and 37 minutes. But a friend of mine was there and she took a picture of my face, and it was taken only moments after I had reached down and pulled my baby out of my body. Her head and shoulders had been delivered by the midwives, and I reached down and took her by the upper arms and gently pulled her the rest of the way out of my body and laid her on my chest. And then I looked down at her, and her little head was right here, and my eyes were here. And we were just gazing at each other, and this friend of mine just caught that moment so beautifully. And even if she hadn't, I don't think I will ever forget that, because that was a moment of pure bliss. And here's the funny part. I mean, you've probably put this together. I just had 12 hours, 12 of the roughest hours of my life. And yet there was nothing showing on my face except bliss. So that was like the opposite side. Instead of, I didn't look at myself in the mirror, but I have this picture now, and you look at this woman who just delivered a baby, and there's nothing there but joy and bliss, and there's nothing on the face of that baby except peace and just a beautiful, I mean, you can just tell that there are just these connections being formed between us visually. The bonding is so clear in that picture, and it was just a moment of pure joy for me. And so that's the other side that the mirror can show you, the effect of having a radical shift in your biology impacting your face. That that aliveness, that sense of vitality. I certainly wasn't prepared to go run a marathon race or, or anything like that. But I wasn't like, leave me alone, I need a nap. I was just totally engaged in the moment of enjoying the presence of my new baby. So it's not the mirror that's the problem. When I use the term mirror shock, it can kind of be interpreted as there's something wrong with the mirror. How can the mirror be showing me something that's not there? No, the mirror is your friend, because the mirror is revealing to you what your body, what your physiology is writing on your face for the world to see. And if you're not happy with what you see there are definitely things that you can do to change that. And that's what You Think Secrets is all about. So, if you want to, you can have a little taste of that right now. And you can just set this video to the side and put it near the mirror so you can hear my words, but look at yourself in the mirror. And as you do that, give yourself a little baseline rating of 1 to 10. How radically alive, how vibrant, how joyful, how blissful is the woman's face in the mirror? Just try to be honest. Give it a rating between 1 and 10. 10 is radically alive, and 1 is pretty saggy. And then close your eyes and let's just go through this little practice. Think about a time in your life when you can remember feeling radically alive. And allow yourself to just step into a little time machine and go back to that moment. Feel the feelings that you were feeling then. See in your mind's eye what your eyes were seeing then. Hear in your ears any music that might have been playing, any words that you were speaking or were being spoken to you, or the sounds of nature, the sounds of the ocean, the sounds of the birds singing. Smell any smells. If there was a morning cup of joe in that experience, can you smell that coffee smell? Or were you baking oatmeal cookies at Christmas time with your mom? Or are you the mom baking Christmas cookies with your children? Or are you the grandmother baking Christmas cookies with your little grandkids? Let yourself fully embody that moment and just feel that radical aliveness. Just linger there for a few seconds and then open your eyes and look again at that face in the mirror. Can you see the difference? If not, close your eyes and go back there again and just amp it up. Make it more visible, make it more bright, make it more feelable, make it more smellable and tasteable and hearable and seeable. Just pump it up until it touches you again, the way that it did when it first occurred. And then open your eyes and see the radical aliveness that's there on your face. That's what happens when you start to run your youthing, that's what I like to call it, your youthing system. You just defy the default. I'm looking for those women that are willing to shake their fist at the aging default and say, no, you are not running my life. I'm going to run my life. I'm going to activate my biology. I'm going to choose to use. And I'm going to practice this skill until I start to live in that. And that doesn't mean you won't have a moment of devastation. I mean, of course, life throws us curveballs. There's nothing we can do about that. But what we can do is learn how to activate these youthing mechanisms. And there are a lot of them. The more that I research it, the more that I find out there. There are many ways to do this. Some may work better for you. Keep those. Some may not have such an impact on you. Just let them go. We don't need the ones that don't work because youthing is not a one-size-fits-all formula. Youthing is a practice, a lifestyle that you invent for yourself, and I will help you do that. I will help you by doing the research and bringing you the practices, and then you will take it on. And I hope that you will enjoy it. I know that I do. And that doesn't mean I don't have bad days. I definitely still have bad days. There's days when I'm just not up to bringing myself to this practice, and that's okay. But just know, as I do, that there's a price to pay for that. The price you pay is those days the aging default is running the show, and it doesn't help you feel any better. So it's great to strengthen that youthing muscle so that on those bad days you do bring more to the show that has the willingness and has the strength to say, yes, I'm going to choose to shift my focus now from whatever's bothering me to whatever's true, whatever I know about my authentic self, I'm going to engage with my authentic, radically alive self. And that's going to open up the vista for me, the possibilities and the opportunities that I wasn't seeing a few seconds ago. That's the gift of being able to make this shift yourself. So, I'm going to be talking more about Youthing Secrets. I have been and I will be. And I'm looking forward to you joining me and hopefully subscribing and building our relationship and letting me help you help yourself to become a younger, more radically alive version of you. Thanks for joining me today. See you next time.